Dad, nice to see you. Let's get right into it with Colin Kaepernick. I made an argument in SI a couple of days ago that he should be in the NFL. You disagree, so let's argue it.
Okay. This is going to be a hammer and tongs argument. Maybe it'll end our relationship. I don't know.
Yeah, we've had a good relationship so far, but this could be the end.
A couple of things. Before we talk about Colin, I want to make the context very clear. This has nothing to do with Colin Kaepernick's view on police brutality toward people of color. Obviously, with what's going on in the country right now and what started in Minneapolis, he has a point. So we all need to pay attention to that and thank him.
Yeah.
It also has nothing to do with our personal feelings about Colin Kaepernick. We covered him. We know him more than most journalists.
Yeah.
Probably there are about 10 journalists, I'd say around 10, Iggy, in the Bay Area who really know him. And you and I are among those two. So it has nothing to do with that. This is strictly a football discussion.
Yes.
No politics, no personal feelings.
Yes.
And I hope that the viewers take that into account. Okay, I'm coming to the discussion where I think I'm going to crush you, but you usually win these
Dad,
things.
I'm going to go real light on you because I got all the facts on my side, but it's okay.
I know.
I'm going to be differential.
Okay, well, I'm older, so
right.
Okay. You made an argument, a very plausible argument in SI.com in an article you wrote that he should be in the league. I disagree.
Okay.
And I want to start with your argument itself. You did not make a case that he is a very good quarterback.
Because he's not. He's not.
That he deserves to be in the league.
Right.
And for example, you never in your article claimed he should be a starter.
He shouldn't. No team should give him a starting job. No.
Right. So that puts 32 quarterbacks ahead of him.
That's right. And not to mention guys in college right now who have a brighter future and a higher stock among NFL teams than Colin. So probably 40 guys. Yeah.
Okay. So there's 40 guys ahead of him.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is, if I read your article correctly, is that he's good enough to be a backup somewhere.
Yes.
That's not really praising a guy very much.
Nope.
From my point of view.
That's right.
So you're saying he's among mediocre quarterbacks, he's pretty mediocre,
Yep.
or maybe a high mediocre.
That's right.
Well, I don't think any team with a brain is looking for high mediocre. And I got more.
Okay.
He's lost, if I'm correct, Iggy, he hasn't played in 3 years.
That's right.
Okay. Now, there are certain people that we'll name who lost significant time in their careers and came out to have great careers. Michael Jordan.
Yep.
He was out for 2 years. And he came back and he was the greatest before he left, and he came back and he was the greatest player in the NBA. So there's an example of someone who did it. Muhammad Ali lost 3.5 years of his career and came back and continued to have a great career. I don't put, as an athlete and a competitor, I don't put Kaepernick in the class of Jordan and Ali. Jordan is probably the greatest basketball player who ever lived. And Ali, while not the greatest boxer who ever lived, no one could be in a world where Sugar Ray Robinson had existed. He was a top 10 all-time great boxer. Colin Kaepernick was never in that class. I don't think you would argue that. He was never a quarterback like Jordan was a basketball player or like Montana was a quarterback. He was never in that league. So I think the 3 years that he's been away will really hurt him. Now, was it unjust that he wasn't in the league? Probably, but we're not going to get into that. It's just the fact that he's been away for 3 years. He never was elite, and what's more, Iggy, his skills already were eroding.
I agree with everything you said. I mean, I was the guy who pointed out to you in 2014 that he didn't know the difference between man and zone coverage. I mean, we were at 2014, the first home game at Levi's Stadium. He was talking after the game about why he threw the pass that didn't work with the game on the line. He was like, well, it was cover one. No, it wasn't. So, yeah, I mean, he was a disappointment as a passer. He never really took the craft that seriously.
Well, let me. You're coming into my next point, which I appreciate. Obviously, I covered Joe Montana's career. In those days, They didn't have, video, that those little tablets, how they have, and they can watch all the plays when they study. They had an actual playbook, and the Niners was a big, thick, loose leaf binder with the plays, mimeographed in them. Iggy, whenever I saw Joe Montana when he was a young man, he was lugging that thing around like it was the Bible, and probably in a sense it was his Bible. And he was so serious about learning. He was so serious. I don't believe Colin Kaepernick ever had that zeal. Now,
I agree.
I wasn't in his bedroom with him. You know what I mean? I wasn't with him at night. It's a gut feeling.
I totally agree.
Okay. I don't think he had the zeal.
Yep.
I don't think he really ever had the passion to be a great football player the way Steve Young did.
I agree.
Steve Young started as a running quarterback the way Kaepernick did. And it used to drive Bob McKittrick, the offensive line coach, crazy. He used to say to me, we have a play called. We're in our blocking scheme, our offensive line. He runs. He says, my guys, they don't even know what to do now. And Bill Walsh had to tell Steve, you want to be my quarterback? You want to be a quarterback on this team? You have to learn to throw.
Right.
Well, I don't think Kaepernick ever got to that level.
Right.
I don't think he ever got to the level where he was a thrower first. I think he saw one.
I agree.
He looked at
one read.
One read. He never learned to go through the progressions the way Steve studied so hard.
Right.
And then would run.
Right.
I don't believe a running quarterback, and that includes Lamar Jackson, who's very exciting. I don't believe they can win a Super Bowl. As much as I admire Lamar Jackson, at a point you got to pass and he's not good enough. And I felt the same way, especially Kaepernick's last year. His passing was not as good as it had been, and it was never that good to begin with. Hold on. I want to see if I got another point.
Go for it.
Before you destroy me.
I'll do it gently.
Okay, those are my points.
Okay, so you're right. Colin Kaepernick's probably not going to win a Super Bowl. He's not going to be Joe Montana or Steve Young. And the thing that we think, Kaepernick's a disappointment. When he came out, he could have been great. He played well as a young man, and he never improved the way he should have. So that's why we always talked about his weaknesses, because he shouldn't have had them. He should have been able to improve, and he didn't. That being said, he's not a bad quarterback. He's not Tim Tebow. There are a lot of examples of bad quarterbacks. What he is a mediocre passer. I mean, not particularly accurate, not particularly good at going through progressions, a strong arm.
No touch.
A mediocre, not a bad passer, not Tim Tebow, but a mediocre passer. I mean, no touch. The one thing he does have going for him is he rarely throws picks. Rarely. He protects the ball. You look at his stats, he's had one bad year in his career. It was under Tom Sula. It was an awful year. But that was a joke of a team. Every other year, he was mediocre as a passer. Mediocre to mediocre plus. And that's not much of an endorsement. The Niners shouldn't sign Kaepernick. They have Nick Mullins. The Raiders shouldn't sign Kaepernick. They have Marcus Mariota. I'd rather have both of them. But there's a lot of teams with terrible backups, Dad. And backup quarterback's an important position. The Eagles won with their backup just a couple of years ago. Guys get hurt. So if you look at Kaepernick, sure, he's a mediocre passer, but the main thing that he brings is his running. He's a great runner. He's not just a good runner. He's a great runner. For his career, he averages 6.1 yards per carry. So if you're looking for a backup, someone who can actually win you some games and keep you in the hunt while your guy's out for a month or two, he's probably the best option in the world right now. I mean, that's available. I'd rather have Colin Kaepernick right now than Cam Newton. I always thought Colin was better than him. And yeah, Colin hasn't played recently, but Cam has just gotten obliterated. He's hurt. At least Kaepernick should be healthy. But this is what I want to put. I'm assuming that Kaepernick wants to play football and would be willing to accept the veteran minimum to be a backup. If Kaepernick were willing to take $900,000 on a one-year deal like Blaine Gabbert does, and just come into the team and wait, practice, train hard, prove that he belongs, and when he gets his opportunity, I think he would actually be pretty good. I just don't know if he actually wants to do that. But the thing is, no team has given him an offer. Not even a one-year, $1 million deal, according to him. So what I'd like to see is some team offer him a non-guaranteed one-year contract for the vet minimum to bring him into camp and give him a shot. Put the ball in his court and see if he really wants to play football. He might turn that down. But if he really wants a job like he says he does, if he just wants another chance back in the league, he'll accept that deal, and he might be the best million you ever spent. I mean, any person who can average 6 yards a carry in the NFL can help your offense somehow. And I know you say running quarterbacks can't win a Super Bowl. Maybe you're right. They haven't done it yet. But they can win you games in the regular season. Lamar Jackson just did it. Colin Kaepernick won a bunch of games in the regular season. He won 4 playoff games. So if you're scraping the bottom of the barrel of bad quarterbacks, he's up there. He's a good option. If you're shopping at Neiman at like Nordstrom Rack, he's a good option.
Okay, I like to make 2 points. You're making the point that offer him the minimum of non-guaranteed contract.
Yep.
He would never accept that in a million years. Why should he? He makes all this money from Nike. Again,
it would put him in a tough position though, because he says that he's been blackballed and he just needs an opportunity to get back in the league. Okay, so give him the same. You hear a lot of people say like, why is Blaine Gabbert in the league and Colin Kaepernick isn't? Well, Blaine Gabbert's on a 1-year, $900,000 contract. Is Colin willing to do that?
Okay, let's say he's willing. I don't believe he would, but let's say he would. Okay, he accepts it.
Yep.
So now he's playing. Let's put him on a team.
The Rams.
The Rams. Now he's playing, and Goff, who's a stiff. He gets scared. He doesn't see the coverage, and he gets blasted. And now you got to bring in Colin Kaepernick. Here's the problem when he goes on the Rams. The Rams have a head coach who's got a philosophy.
Yep.
Sean McVay.
Yep.
He's got a certain offense philosophy, which is similar to Kyle Shanahan's, which is a throwing quarterback.
Sure.
Now, all of a sudden, you bring this guy in who's a running quarterback.
Right.
You have to change the whole offense in 6 days.
Yep.
I wouldn't want him. I'd want a quarterback who knew what I was doing. So if I were a head coach who ran that system, Kaepernick is the last one I'd want.
I'd want to win. And the Rams' backup quarterback right now is Blake Bortles, who is the stiffest of the stiffs. I mean, he shouldn't be in the league. I'm telling you, Dad, like, there are some number 2 quarterbacks on certain teams that have no business. Let's talk about, like, Baltimore. Their number 2 quarterback is RG3. He's awful. He's so bad.
Baltimore, it would make sense to bring him.
It'd be
perfect. Why you're a genius.
Well, I mean, Greg Roman's their offensive coordinator. Greg Roman coached Colin Kaepernick. He's been in that offense. He'd be a perfect backup for Lamar Jackson. All I'm saying is, for these teams,
they do the same thing.
Yeah, for these teams where a guy gets hurt, like the Steelers last year. Ben Roethlisberger got hurt week 2, and they limped through the rest of the season with stiffs at quarterback. Still won 8 games because they had a top 5 defense. Basically wasted a season of a good defense. If you bring in a guy like Kaepernick, who's a little bit better than Mason Rudolph, maybe you win 10 games. Maybe the season is more worthwhile. I think your job as the head coach is to win. And if your starting quarterback goes down and there's a better option than the backup you have on your team, your duty to the franchise is to figure it out. That's what Walsh would say. Figure it out.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
I would say it would make sense to bring him in right now as a backup on Baltimore.
Yeah.
I would agree with you.
Yep.
And also, I'll agree that you win this argument because I'm happy. I love you. I'll agree that
it's a highly theoretical argument, and it depends on him actually wanting to play for the vet minimum. Who knows?
Yes, but here's the deal.
Yep.
I am willing to concede and to say you win the argument. But in terms of how we defined it, not in terms of being a good quarterback. No. He's a good, mediocre quarterback. If we can agree on that statement, you win the argument.
He is a good, mediocre quarterback. He's probably the best mediocre quarterback in the history of mediocre quarterbacks.
I'm not going to give him that much. I'd like.
He's one of the better mediocre quarterbacks.
For example, you had referenced Nick Foles earlier without mentioning his name.
Foles won a championship.
He won a Super Bowl.
Good point.
Colin Kaepernick wouldn't have won that game.
No, probably not.
Nick Foles is a better mediocre quarterback than Colin Kaepernick.
Okay, fair enough. But there is value in having a good mediocre backup. Look at the Eagles. And if you're a team that has RG3 as your backup, you are playing with fire, and you'd be better off with Colin.
I agree to that. I agree he can be a backup, and he's a good mediocre quarterback.
Let's see if he wants to do it, because backup quarterback is the least glamorous position on a football team. Maybe it's down there with kicker and punter. And my thing with Kaepernick is I still think he wants to be famous. I think he got famous very fast in 2012. He loved it and has never been able to let it go.
I'm with you. I think and let's end it on this. My feeling about Colin is he wanted to be famous more than he wanted to be great.
I agree.
Joe Montana wanted to be great more than he wanted to be famous. But the paradox is, when he got great, he got famous.